How's everyone doing? I'm just doing a indoor video at my desk. Got my lovely little hatchet sitting here. My desk's a little bit messy because I've been playing with the microscope I just bought for less than 20 bucks. Works well. Been doing a few little bits of video with that. And I've got other random sort of junk on my desk, including my little Star Wars stuff. And none of that's really important for the video, but I feel like I'm going to have a lot of time to spare. But this video is about restoring the edge on your knife and why I like simple steels. For example, like a Victorinox knife. And let's just test the sharpness now, because this has got an edge that I just put on it, which is pretty coarse, because I was demonstrating something else to someone. But you can see it cuts paper fairly easily. One more time just to show. And what we're going to do now, oh my god, that felt like running a knife down the blackboard. It actually made me shiver. And yeah, let's try that again. So, you've done a hard day's work and you've messed up your knife. You don't want a dull knife, you want a fast knife that's easy to sharpen, and you want to get this back to cutting again. And, you know, hard knives are good, high RC can be good if it's on a simple steel, but I personally don't like high carbide steels. I find that it's just a pain in the ass to sharpen. In fact, as a knife maker, I find I'd reprofile almost every knife on a grinder because I just can't be bothered sharpening. Sharpening is a great hobby. If you like to sharpen as a hobby, it can be therapeutic. But I actually like to make knives. I like to use knives. I like to cut with knives. Don't really like sharpening them. And because I don't like sharpening them, I don't want to waste time. So, you know, when the knife is dull, and realistically it's not going to get that dull very often in real use, unless you accidentally cut onto concrete and stuff, and I do when I'm fishing. But you want to get it back to a shaving edge, or at least a modest edge, reasonably quickly. So you know, sometimes I watch videos online and it doesn't matter how people sharpen or how long it takes you to sharpen. That's a personal preference. But a lot of the testing and things I see with different steels, they can provide valuable information, but what they neglect often is when they say, well, this steel at this hardness will cut this much longer in this test than this other steel. But I prefer tests that include the time to recover your knife as part of the test. This is something I've talked about many years ago on Cliff's forum and things, but you know, in the real world you have to sharpen your knife, and if you're doing a job that uses a knife, you can't say, well, I can cut 25 fish and then life stops while I sharpen, and then I can cut another 25 fish, but your knife isn't as good, or it's not as good as steel because it only cuts 15 fish. Pause life, sharpen. You actually have to consider that sharpening time if you're on the job, because someone's paying you for it. So I think it's important, not if a steel can go twice as long or 3 times as long, but how much effort then is there involved in sharpening it. And you've got to include that time, I think, to see the benefit. And I've always had a philosophy in my mind from use of knives that I want the one that gives me the most efficiency. So if I can do 100 cuts and sharpen in 5 seconds, that's better than one that does 200 cuts but takes 15 seconds to sharpen. I'm just making up numbers here, who knows what they are, but you know, I look at the overall time and effort of that steel. But it gets even more dramatic than that, because in real use you might take a chip out of your knife, you hit a rock, whatever. In outdoor use especially, you're going to get dings, rolls, bangs, And I mean, I hate D2. I've used D2. I like D2. I've got D2 knives. I hate using them because the minute they get damaged, unless you've got really coarse diamonds or something, it takes forever to reprofile that entire edge by hand to get a tiny chip out. It's just too wear resistant. Whereas you take O1 or AEBL or something like this, wham, it's done. You've profiled it. So I've always believed in steels that work well, but as people know watching me, geometry carts. A thin, unheat treated knife like that 304 can cut better than a heat treated thick pry bar. Anyway, let's fix the knife. And I won't talk too much while I'm doing it, but I'm actually going at a fairly slow speed here just to make it not too difficult, because normally if you've seen me sharpen before, I do this at a fairly rushed pace, but we're getting there. And the angle on this is about 13 degrees that I'm doing it. How do I know? I'm just guessing. And what I'll normally do is deburr it a little bit. Look at that. Bit coarse, but we could go like this if we wanted to go a bit faster and get it done 5 times quicker. This is a DMT coarse that I'm using now, and just clean the dirt off, do that, go to the fine. And I'm doing this fairly slowly now for the camera because I don't want to have to repeat the video. And I'm doing it at the speed that I had imagined most people would do it at, rather than the speed I'd typically do it at. Yep. And obviously I'd probably do it a little bit more than this, but look at that. Will it shave arm here yet? Oh yes, it will take off arm here. And if I was really feeling inclined, I could get this. And I'm running out. Look at that. And that was going slow. I didn't even measure the time. I'll look at the camera later and I'll note in the description. But that's from completely ruined to shaving sharp and barely any time. If I was sharpening at my normal speed, it's less than a minute. Less than a minute for a lot of cutting. I think anyone that owns a Swiss Army knows you can cut a pretty decent amount with this. But when you can fix it, and in general if you're cutting rope or something, you can fix it with one of these in about 5 seconds and keep going. If you recut it on this, then you take away the fatigue steel. Again, you can be done in 15 seconds back to a true cutting edge. And that's why for me personally, I'll always stick with things like AEBL, O1, Victorinox steel. I feel like they're true working steels because they've got good toughness. They are hard enough, but they're not so hard that in field maintenance and repair, they're a problem. And even if they do dull faster than some other steels, they're so fast to repair and put back to shaving sharp that you can't even measure that time. And I do hear arguments, sometimes people say they don't want to sharpen while they're out. Well, that might be valid if you need to use something like an Edge Pro and you need 20 minutes to do the job. But when you look at the amount of kit and things people normally carry, if you can just carry this and half a minute you're done, and that half a minute might be once or twice a day, small arguments for it. Anyway, that was all. It's really just, unless you enjoy sharpening, and that's great, buy 500 stones and do 2 hours worth of work a day. it's quite cool watching what some people do, mirror polishes, all that sort of thing. But the reality is, on a working knife, you want your bevel to be as small as possible, because the more surface area you have, the harder it is. And especially if it's a resistant steel to adhesive wear, then the bigger surface area of your bevel, the much harder it is to abrade it. So yeah, micro bevels, keep them small, make it easy. Anyway, that's why I like Swiss Armies. I mean, how easy is that to fix and keep using? I love them.